I'm going to say this as clear as I can to white people. We are here because too many people that look like me since 1619 have stood by in your privilege and haven't done anything, said anything, and you have stayed in your comfort zone. When black people were kidnapped and died on the ships and thrown in the ocean, when they were lynched from trees, when they were passed out in somebody's will as property, when fetuses were ripped out of black mothers and babies were used for alligator bait, when they were beaten and whipped and chained and shackled, white people goes, doesn't affect me, I don't care. Nothing to see here, let's go play baseball. When Black Wall Street was burnt down, when Native Americans were murdered and given blankets with smallpox, Wounded Knee, the Middle Passage, the Trail of Tears, nothing to see here, my privilege will keep me safe, I'm not gonna say anything. When black people couldn't vote for 200 years, when Asians were in internment camps and thousands died, nothing to see here, doesn't affect me. And you had the same thing on January 6th, where a white supremacist didn't like the results of an election, so his white trash KKK base with their white hoods on beat police officers. And this country overlooked that, and him being a rapist and a convicted felon and defending child molesters. And you said, that's my guy because he's white. And then he pardoned 1,600 people, even though 5 officers had died, even though many people have long-term disabilities, because you couldn't vote for the goddamn black woman. And then tonight, you have the Supreme Court, the Roberts Court, that's upholding the Jim Crow map in Alabama, disenfranchising black voters. And yes, Uncle Tom, Clarence Thomas on there, he's a sellout. He wants to be white so bad that he's going to lick the boots of the plantation owner all the way. He'll probably even wear a white hood at some point. I would not be surprised if Clarence Thomas comes to the Supreme Court with a white hood and a robe. Wouldn't shock me one bit. I'd put money on it. I'd probably put $500 on it because that's what he wants. It's proximity to whiteness. He has sold out his soul and he's a disgusting, vile human being. And right now, tomorrow we're going to have the Lakers play a finals game. I want you to think about this. The New York Knicks and the San Antonio Spurs are going to play. And right next to them in New Jersey, we have women that have lost pregnancies at the Delaney concentration camp, because that's what it is. This is no different than Nazi Germany. We have women that have lumps that need cancer treatment. We got people that are eating moldy bread and food with maggots in it. And at the exact same time, you got people spending $3,000 to $100,000 to watch a basketball game while people are in concentration camps, just like Nazi Germany. The only thing that's going to change white people is when you suffer the effects of your privilege. That's it. And I've said this about a year ago. Until white people suffer the effects of their white privilege, of turning a blind eye, of your, oh, I don't have a lot of money, I can't do anything, that's fine, that's cool. But just remember, when you say that answer, your parents weren't hanging from a tree. Your house wasn't redlined. You're not called the N-word. You don't have to give the talk to your kids because they're going to get pulled over by white cops just for being black at night. You're not paid less. Your house isn't redlined. You just remember that. The next time you say, oh, I don't have money, that's cool. But you have the privilege of ignoring it. That's what privilege is. And if the midterms come and white people still are on the streets by the millions, and I'm talking every damn day. I'm talking about shutting the whole country down and stop paying taxes. That's fine. You do whatever you want. You make any excuse you want. Then I pray that the Republicans win. I do. You know why? Because you haven't suffered enough. You're going to have to lose your jobs, lose your cars, not afford food, because that's the only way that white people are going to start giving a shit about anybody else in this country, is when your privilege is taken away. When you feel hopeless and helpless Because right now you're only worried about me, 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 me. And Michelle Obama told us, if you think the darkness won't come over your front door, you are sadly mistaken. Now that darkness is going to have to come to a lot of you white people. It's going to have to kick the door down. It's going to have to be like a damn plague. But you brought it on because of your silence. You say, well, Paul, you don't think that I've lost business doing this? You don't think I've had friends and family cut me off and cuss me out? Hell yeah, I have. I don't care. Whether you like it or not, in the words of Ben Parker, which was Peter Parker's uncle, with great power comes great responsibility. Whether you like it or not, you have white privilege. Now you can either sit with it and do nothing while everybody else gets treated like crap, or you can use it and do what I'm doing. Because there's about 20 to 25% of this country that is just white trash. They are. They would rather burn democracy to the ground than have a black woman run over them. That is a fact. Because 77 million people went to the voting booth and ignored rape, sexual assault by 24 women, a 13-year-old that sued Trump and Epstein for raping her, a man that was mentioned on the Epstein files more than Jesus is mentioned in the Bible, a convicted felon, a man who was accused of raping his second ex-wife, who had sex with a porn star while his third failed marriage, an immigrant, by the way, who could barely speak English, is nursing their son. He has sex with a porn star. An insurrection that led to the death of 5 officers who questioned the birth of Barack Obama, who told you to inject bleach, didn't rent to black people, and asked for the execution of 5 black men because they couldn't vote for the black woman. 250 years, huh? Such a great country. 51% of our population are women. It's funny how we've never had a woman president. This country would rather vote for a rapist and a convicted felon over the most qualified black woman in the history of our country. That is what Trump ran on. They're poisoning the blood of America. Ooh, they're eating the dogs and cats. He took away the history of slavery at the president's house in Philadelphia. Why? Because he wants white people to believe the lie of American exceptionalism. He took away the history of slavery at the Smithsonian. Pete Hegseth, that alcoholic, that had three failed marriages and had a daughter out of wedlock and paid a woman $50,000 while he's getting drunk on a stripper pole. He gave ribbons to the white men that murdered the Lakota at Wounded Knee from 1890 because the white man could do no wrong. That's why we're here. And they are going to do everything they can to make sure that whites stay in the majority. They're going to do that through 3 ways. They're going to deport brown people. They're going to overturn the Voting Rights Act. And they're going to try to tear down democracy. They are. They are. So it's up to you, white people. You haven't suffered enough yet. You think you have financial hardships? That's nothing to what black people have suffered for 400 fucking years in this country. We will not remember the words of our enemies, rather the silence of white people. White supremacy succeeds when white people do nothing. That's up to you, America. This is not a black problem, this is a white problem. Now, you could choose to be uncomfortable, or you can let democracy burn. Do not blame the politicians that you elected, because you have the power to do something, but you don't want to be uncomfortable. You don't want to talk to your mom and your dad that voted for MAGA. You don't want to put a flag upside down. You don't want to go on a protest. You don't want to do anything to be uncomfortable. That's privilege. It's your decision, America. You can sit in your privilege, or you can watch democracy burn to the ground. And maybe that's what we need. Maybe that's the only way white people are finally going to care about somebody else other than them damn selves. Have a white day.